Hey everybody, today I'm here with Blaque.
Hi.
She is a lovely vlogger, does lots of really cool, informative videos, and she's also a feminist. She also makes videos for Everyday Feminism.
I do. We're co-workers.
But I thought we would talk about kind of comedy and feminism and how there's this perception that like feminists are offended by everything.
Yeah.
So you can never take a joke.
And I'm turned the fuck up right now, so this is the best time to have this conversation.
Why do you think there's this idea that like feminists have no sense of humor? Like, why does that exist?
Well, I think most stereotypes that are against feminism are really based in like this idea that, listen, it's really easy to take apart something when you make it seem so ridiculous that no one who's a reasonable person would ever agree with this thing, right? So for me, I think that a lot of these ideas exist because it makes it easier for people to counter feminism. It makes it easier for people to be like, no, feminism is not worth supporting because anyone who feminists believe this silly shit. Feminists believe this extreme silly shit. So if you believe in this extreme silly shit, then you're a feminist. And I just think a lot of people spend a lot of time, creating this straw man feminism that is so ridiculous and so over the top that any reasonable person wouldn't agree with it, when in reality that's not necessarily the truth. So
yeah, absolutely. So you do like laugh in real life?
I do. Well, I made a joke about fucking Donald Trump for hush money, and a lot of my followers were very shocked by that. And I was like, "What? Are you serious? Like, you guys are really like, I don't know. Like, people don't. I don't know. Like, when you're a feminist and you make feminist content, they only see that side of you, right? And in many ways, that's kind of a reflection of how women are often seen as one-dimensional. You can either be this or that. You can either be the Madonna or the whore. You can't be a combination of both, right? So for me, one thing I'm trying to do more and more on my channel and on my social media is acknowledge the fact that I like to have fun. Okay? Yes, I'm a feminist. Yes, I believe that we should change language. We should shift our ideas. We should, make things more inclusive, and we should be more understanding. But I also think that it's really fun to laugh at the ways in which so many people are socialized to see things in a way that just is not inclusive or fun, So a lot of my comedy, a lot of things I find to be funny are, parodying people who have been raised a certain way to only see things a certain perspective. And, it's like I always joke about when I joke about transphobes, it's just like, I like to make the joke of like the person who, the kind of people who speak to me often, which are like, listen, I don't really believe in the whole non-binary thing or whatever, but like, you're like one of the good ones, It's like you're feminine and you look a certain way. It's like, because it's so ridiculous. It's funny. It's just like, so, I can make fun of, the ruling class because I think that that's who we should be laughing at. I think good comedy punches up, not down. And so I think that, the things I find funny are often things that are punching up at like kind of like the ignorance of, the ruling class or the main class or the majority, as opposed to what often happens in comedy where you're laughing at the minority. You're laughing at somebody because they can't speak a certain language. You're laughing at somebody because they have a certain skin color. You're laughing at somebody because they have a certain experience that is not yours. And I think that that is kind of what people miss about comedy. It's really easy to make that black joke. It's really easy to make that tranny joke. It's really easy to make that joke about a group of people who are underrepresented. But it's harder to make a joke that actually comments on the social structures that make it so that you can laugh at a tranny joke. Because there aren't any trans people in your space to say that's fucked up. This perpetuates violence against me. Right. So I think that that's what makes things funny. So I like to laugh. I don't like to laugh at maybe the same things you like to laugh at, but I like to laugh. I like fun. I don't just sit around all day thinking about, how everyone's so problematic and we need to, change your language to suit my needs,
Yeah, absolutely. So is there like an aspect of identity to the person who's like telling the joke? Because like a lot of times jokes that I find really funny have to do with some aspect of my identity. Like I can joke about white people or trans stuff, but it feels wrong for me to like make a black joke or an Asian joke or whatever. But when people of that identity are making those jokes, it has like a different feeling to it. And I feel like people get conflicted with that. They're like, oh, why can they tell a black joke and I can't?
Yeah. What's interesting? I'm just speaking out the cuff, but there's this YouTuber I follow named Coughlin who like did a really good video recently about comedy, and he was kind of talking about that, how the idea of like, if you laugh at a black joke, you're a racist, right? And I don't necessarily agree with that. One of the points he made was that people laugh at jokes, and that doesn't mean that they necessarily co-sign the joke. I mean, we could argue that they do, but that's not necessarily truth. I mean, sometimes you laugh at something because in the moment, in that space and time, it's funny to you. And then maybe you might go home and think, oh, wow, that was really fucked up. But I think that, it doesn't, just because you laugh at a black joke or a joke that a black person makes doesn't mean that you are anti-black necessarily. I don't think so, right? So I think sometimes the best comedy does come from the people who experience it. Like when a white person makes a joke about a black experience that they don't know, they're speaking from ignorance. When I make a joke about, being the exceptional black person, I think that's an experience that I know, right? And you laugh at that, but you're usually laughing at the unreasonableness of making people feel like they can be a certain type of acceptable minority, right? A certain type of model minority, right? We're laughing at the structure that ultimately is oppressive. We're not laughing at those people. Right? I think that's a very distinct difference. It's so easy to make a nigger joke, so easy to make a tranny joke. It's so easy to make those jokes and laugh at them because we've already lived in a society that makes it so that those groups of people are oppressed and underrepresented, and so it's funny, it's easy to laugh at them. But it's a lot harder to actually comment on and say the things that make people feel sort of arrested, like, oh my gosh, wait a minute, that's me that they're talking about. Right? So I find that funny. That's what I find funny. And I think sure. Sometimes when you're laughing at a black joke, you're laughing at that, really.
Have you ever told a joke and had someone be offended by it?
I've ever told a joke? I don't know. People are really offended. I don't know.
Yeah?
One thing, I think the disconnect I have with a lot of my followers is I'm not easily offended. I'm really not. Like, a white person could say a nigger joke to my face, and I would be like, I wouldn't laugh at it, but be
Is
I'm
that
not,
a challenge?
Well, it wouldn't be don't do it. But it would just be like,
I was like, please don't.
But that's me though. Like, I feel like one of the things I'm always dealing with is like, I have my standard and my comfort and my thing, and other people have their thing. Like, I did a whole comedy video, my last comedy video I did about the differences between two, and two, they, not there, there, and there, where, and where, like the difference, And some people were really offended by it because it's, ableist to critique people's misspelling. And I understood that, and I got that, and, that's a joke that people, that made me think a lot. And I think it's always really important to kind of, like, think about, maybe I did fuck up. Maybe I did say something that was wrong, So I try to think like that, I try to think, it's something I find funny. Because I think really what this all is, at the end of the day, is we're all socialized to see things in a certain way. Whether we like it or not, there's a reason why I grew up believing that people who spelled a certain way, people who spoke a certain way, people who had a certain degree of education were therefore better than people who did not have that education. So I think that it's important to kind of question yourself and think about, why is it that I feel that way? What is it that is about this thing that makes me feel that way? But at the end of the day, we should challenge, our own perspectives. We should challenge our own positions, and it's okay to change. It's okay to change. That video is not public anymore because it's not something that I think I need on my channel, right? But there's a lot of shit. Ultimately though, I think when it comes to people being offended, people are always going to be offended. It doesn't matter what you can say, almost anything. People are still going to be offended. You can be as inclusive as possible, as intersectional as possible. People are still going to be offended. And I tend to not share my sense of humor because honestly, people are going to be offended. People are offended by it. So I tend to just like, I let people be offended and I call it a day.
That's everything I wanted to talk about. So I guess moral of the story, feminists can take a joke?
Yeah, and also I think it's really important to also acknowledge that just because somebody is a feminist does not mean that they are the most woke of woke. A lot of us are in the process of waking up to things. Yeah. Just because I'm a feminist and I call myself a feminist does not mean that I have every answer to ever be answered. I think it's always really amazing to hold people accountable. It's always really amazing to have certain conversations and to bring certain things to the forefront. But I think it's unreasonable for people to believe that somebody, simply by their self-identification as a feminist, is therefore not problematic, has never had an issue with anything, has never said anything wrong. I just think that's reasonable. And I think that sometimes, unfortunately, when it comes to social media personalities, we put that pressure on them to be perfect when we're not perfect. We've all said and done things that we could look back at and cringe at. There are things that I said 5 months ago that I was very convicted in at the time that I look at, you know, that pop into my feed, and I'm like, wow, I said that, and I don't agree with that. We're all changing. We're all human. I hate saying that, but we are all human. We all have flaws, and it's okay to have flaws. It's okay to not be perfect. So I think give yourself the benefit, give people on social media the benefit of the doubt that you would give yourself.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to check out Kat's channel. I'm sure you already probably have, but
Catblaque.com. No. Well, yeah, catblaque.com.
You have
yes.
catblaque.com?
But yes,
go there too.
I
Go
do. But youtube.com/catblaque also works as well. BLAQUE, like the 90s group.
And there will be a link in the description if you just want to click things. Get there nice and quick.
It's easier to do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.